active as maybe we wanted to see it. And you know, I think Tarzan and Doomby had pretty quiet games as well. So, you know, that's not always going to happen. And already we're seeing some changes in the draft. This time TT saying, look, all right, we'll opt in to the AD carries. We don't care about it this time around. And they get their choice of Aphelios or Jinx. I would imagine it will be the Jinx for Puff and letting Light go onto that Aphelios, because Jinx just has a much easier time in the first start of the laning phase.
Honestly, though, I wouldn't be amiss to picking something like the Hecarim up here. Does look like we're going to go in the Jinx direction, but when you have Aphelios, Jinx, if you're fine with both, in terms of the trade-off, I really like the Hecarim pick. I feel like LNG probably can just go for the Hecarim themselves in this rotation. Are toying with the idea of the Thresh here and will pick it up. So ban away the Tahm Kench, picking away the Thresh means those safety tools for the Jinx have kind of been limited, but they will lock in that Hecarim. Really powerful pick on this patch, really strong gauge tools. Now, the TT in this situation could look to go towards the Gwen once again if you're feeling confident on it, but I expect probably will want to secure a support in this rotation for themselves.
Possibly a jungler as well.
Yeah, I think you could go in the direction of, like, we saw Gwen Xin Zhao being this really strong duo, like that's kind of picked together quite frequently. Obviously, Xin Zhao does feel a bit weaker on the current patch compared to 12.2, just because the bruise itemization changes, and for that reason they won't go for the Xin Zhao and the Gwen. They will pick the Gwen, they go for the Lee Sin. And this is kind of one of the issues with not picking your Aphelios in those first two. LNG are forced to take that Aphelios on that third pick, right? If you leave it open, it will get banned away. And the reason that's a bit of a concern is now, TT, you have those two bans. We talked about it in the draft before. Ban away the good picks for Ale into this Gwen. Ban away the Akali, ban away the Jace. It's that simple. For LNG, though, look towards the support. Nautilus, definitely something I could see TT wanting to pick up. But a lot of flexibility there. I feel like Leona could be also something you want to do, because they need engage on the side of TT, right? They already have they have the Lee Sin, who obviously is, you know, works in a pinch, but not exactly reliable engage.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, just very much off the cuff before we came into the third picks on either side, it was green bands and picks for LNG and blue bands and picks for TT. Just very aesthetically pleasing to me. That's all I really wanted to say. But we come back in now to the... What? I like when things line up like that. It looks and feels nice. It's like when we're in pick and ban, they just happen to pick like their top, their jungle, their mid, and all in the same order. It's just nice. It's you know, there's no messing about. There's no craziness to be involved. But coming back into the bans, we can see there the Silas being banned away, as well as the Nautilus by LNG, recognizing they need to get rid of, like you mentioned, some of that engage, as well as taking away some of the big mid lane picks that UCal could maybe go towards.
The Silas is a good matchup into Ahri, so it kind of suggests that maybe LNG are leaning towards an Ahri for themselves. TT continue with the line of thought of banning away the difficult picks for the Gwen, but I really could see LNG going for the Ahri pick here and being quite strong. Looks like they might leave it till later and pick up the Kennen for the time being. Is something that goes up against the Gwen reasonably well. Not exactly going to be as much pressure as like Akali post 6 or days before then, but a strong team fighter that holds up fine. For TT, still feel like engage in the support role goes a long way. I feel like you're not really going to find it elsewhere in your composition, so it would make a lot of sense. And honestly, Silas banned away. I think Ahri could be a decent pickup for the side of TT in this situation, right? Syncs really well with the Lee Sin, and the mobility, definitely a great tool to play around with when you're up against the likes of a Hecarim and a Kennen. So we'll see what they opt for in this situation. There are definitely a lot of options in the mid lane. Things like the Vex come to mind as well. But we'll see. And I'm not a big fan of this personally. They are toying with the idea of the Corki.
No, I'm glad to see them move away. Not that much better in terms of my own personal enjoyment. Zoe is still ridiculous at certain situations of the game, especially with those poke, but they do end up leaning in towards that. And now we'll see where LNG want to go with their final pick. I would love an Orianna here for the side of LNG. I think it would work fantastically with what they've already drafted in. Put the ball on top of the Kennen and a Hecarim. You get that very good ball delivery system, and that's exactly what they're going to go for.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I probably would prefer the Ahri in this situation. I'm going to be honest. I feel like Orianna does contest wave reasonably well. Scales exception in the team fights, don't get me wrong. Like the team fight from LNG, once again, looks pretty easy to pull off and quite spectacular. But this Lee Sin Zoe, really, the onus is once again on TT. You have this setup. If you land a CP Trouble Bubble, Sonic Wave follows up. It's an easy kill. On top of that, you should be able to control the area around mid. If Doinby has to roam and face checks that, he's going to get punished. On top of that, you have Tarzan on this Hecarim. Again, we could see those invades coming out to challenge him. So Once more, strong scaling elements in the side lane for TT with a mid jungle that should come out ahead. But I think if it gets to team fights and they're even, LNG have the easier to operate straight up team fight. And I do favor them in that regard. So UCAL, Chieftain, the two latest additions to this TT roster, it is really in your hands on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're wondering how the Ken and Gwen matchup goes, we've seen it earlier today with 369. He was 0-6 on the Kennen and still was able to be absolutely monstrous in team fights. That slicing Maelstrom is just so unbelievably powerful in those situations, and with very little defense effectively for TT, you're basically relying on a Lee Sin Dragon's Rage kick or maybe a headbutt from the Alistar to try and stop this Kennen from engaging. There's not a lot of safety here for this backline, so you need to be so careful of those flank wards coming in from LNG. And for TT, like you mentioned, it's again a hard to execute draft. It is got its wins, it's got its opportunities, but whether or not it all comes together, that's going to be decided in this game. LNG looking to get themselves in 2-0 and up to 8-4 in the standings. So TT looking to try and keep your playoff hopes alive. I will say for TT, if they lose this and OMG win later on this weekend, they would be mathematically out of playoffs. There was no real way they could catch up in front of everybody there, and they've already lost all of the head-to-heads in terms of the people they could catch.
Yeah, definitely puts them in that spot where it's now or never. Obviously, when you're 2-9, you're not really thinking too much about playoffs. You're just thinking about winning as many series as you can, take it one at a time, but you're absolutely right. Now TT gonna go a little bit aggressive and look for some vision here, just to keep an eye on where Tarzan will be showing up. I believe he has a sweeper to clear this one out, and typically we see Hecarim can often start on those like non-buff camps, right? You can start on the Wolves, you can start on the Raptors, just because that AoE clear you have from your Q. It's a bit of flexibility, but will be spotted out in the situation. And so I do think that at least TT have the engage the Alistar provides. I think that definitely goes a long way. I think the complete lack of engage they had before did make things a little bit more difficult. And as you said, the headbutt from the Alistar, the kick from the Lee Sin can go a long way into dealing with the Kennen.
We talk about the ease of execution. Obviously, we know the team fight is good, but in terms of the early levels, are we expecting any kind of shenanigans from LNG, or is it just kind of wait until level 6 and then maybe look for something to make you move on?
So typically we see the Hecarim waiting towards level 6, right? Just because the ult gives so much power. If you do have an overextended lane, sure, there's opportunities. But again, Alistar not exactly the easy gank, so you can just knock the Hecarim away. I think it's on Chieftain. 3-6. I'm looking at what this Lee Sin can do. We saw him invade aggressively last time onto Tarzan. And you can see that Tarzan, he's done his Raptors, he's done his red. He's not going for a full clear. He's trying to pick up his buffs quickly and sort of cover himself against those potential invades. Remember, if you were watching last game, he got invaded on his red on the top side and it was stolen away by Chieftain. They then followed through and actually ended up killing him. So I think Tarzan's doing a good job to mitigate the chance of that happening again.
Come back in. Like I said, they've adapted to the early game strategy that TT adapted in game 1. Tarzan now taking a little bit of a quicker route through his jungle to make sure he does not get caught out in the same fashion. Has found himself on the bot side. Both junglers will be on the bot side of the map for a potential level 3 gank in the bot lane, but don't think there's going to be much else going for it. As we can see, Ala just trying to be as much of a nuisance as he possibly can. The little Pikachu has got plot armor. Never gonna not be OP as hell. Level 9, level 100 is now we see Tarzan fighting Chieftain, but Chieftain, there's nothing for you to take here.
Yeah, and that's the power of this jungle path, right? Is that you don't leave an opportunity to invade. So it wasn't quite as a convincing invade as we saw before from Chieftain, but his strategy hasn't worked again. He is now looking to contest. He's taking that bot side scuttle. He wants to lean over and deny here. And this is that difference in the mid matchup, right? Going to be low on mana, forced away. Does mean that there's a pressure advantage to TT, but Tarzan makes a swift move, secures that scuttle, and can now head towards his Raptors. So despite Chieftain's best efforts, he won't be able to steal away anything from Tarzan this time round. So positive play for LNG to mitigate that pressure. Now we see UCAL, he's fishing. He lands a Sleepy Trouble Bubble here. It could be devastating.
It could very much be. We see the flash headbutt engage. They land the Trouble Bubble as well. Can they just try and keep him alive? Luma with the Glacial Augment, though, does stop any kind of big re-engage. That sentence goes off to the side. As we can see now, UCAL just taking a little bit more harassment than maybe he intended.
Yeah, so critical thing there is Puff, well, wasn't there, right? He was back in base, so I think maybe with the Jinx being there on top of that might have been enough to make a difference. Could have potentially allowed the traps to go down to proc the Sleepy Trouble Bubble to lock the Thresh in place. Either way, it's flash with flash, so for the most part, you feel like LNG will be kind of okay with that, but something to mention is that Southwind does have Hex Flash. I feel like when you have Hex Flash on these engaged champions, you kind of are really happy to trade flashes just because you're essentially getting access to that Hex Flash you wouldn't have had otherwise. So you're not even really losing out that much in this scenario. You don't have that extra element of snapping gauge. You don't have that extra element of safety if you get caught out, but definitely gives you a lot of tools to play around with.
Yeah, really, really does. We can see Doomby taking a very unfavorable trade against UCal in this mid lane. The Trouble Bubble doing so much just to try and push him back, like you mentioned earlier, and it'd be a little bit difficult here for Doomby to get out of this lane. This has been kind of a consistent theme here for LNG so far this split. It has been very much, we talked about Doomby at the start of the split, saying, look, it's all about him getting out, affecting those lanes, doing as much as he possibly can. The top laners go head to head there. The Scissors coming out stronger than the Pikachu, but it is very much a theme we're seeing that Doomby not having the same level of impact that we've seen him have in previous seasons, and it is hurting LNG just a little bit in these early games.
I think a problem is they haven't really... Oh, this could be trouble.
I mean, he might actually end up dying here. Yes, he will. First blood goes in. UCal tanks up the turret like an absolute bro. TT very, very well set up in that mid lane.
And that's clear, right? The Sleepy Trouble Bubble into the Sonic Wave. Not much you can do once it's connected in that scenario. This is what we want to see. I gotta say, right, Doinby, in fairness, they didn't really give him too many favors in this draft, right? Getting pressured quite heavily here and hard to contest the mid prio. But this is the start of positives for TT. Mid jungle going well, applying that pressure. They get the kill. Now they're looking towards this objective in with the dragon, right? And on top of that, Doinby bit his flash. So this Orianna is going to be really scared of pushing up, playing aggressive, moving through the river. You see UCal fishing for a Sleepy Trouble Bubble there, but won't find anything. Now on the other side, Tarzan instantly, never one to sleep on a chance to punish his opponent, will steal away the Gromp after having his own stolen. Don't think he'll be there long enough for the blue buff to spawn, but still trying to find these positives. And I think this is kind of like a game of cat and mouse right now for Tarzan, avoiding a pressure, getting as much as he can. But yeah, I mean, level 6 hit, Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and the time is perfect. Look at the patience, just to sync them together so Doinby doesn't have the chance to really flash any damage.
Yeah, and syncing them together and also just making sure that when he goes in on the Sonic Wave, he does get the execute damage. So good combination here from Chieftain and UCal, and it's why we actually saw these guys being brought into the roster. Like we said, they were later additions to the TT team, and that meant that they weren't exactly, you know, there was a lot of question marks of why they were bringing them in, but there's the synergy right there being set up here for TT, and they find themselves in a little bit of advantage. They get the early dragon, they also get themselves the first blood, and again, good start for TT, similar to what we saw in Game 1. Now it's all about how they transition it, how they're able to work it out for themselves, and Chieftain, he's only got eyes on one thing, and that's that red buff, which Tarzan would really love to be able to keep for himself because he's almost level 6. I think this should be able to give it to him. He's able to secure it, as we can see them now going for a bit of a smite fight, but never mind. There's Tarzan having to run away, canter off as much as he possibly can. Shockwave is flashed away, and Chieftain with the kick gets on top of Doomby. That was so clean.
Beautiful there, completely shuts Tarzan out of his jungle. As you said, denies level 6. Oh, there's a rocket coming in. Doesn't quite connect with Doinby, just saw it on the minimap there, so not able to find the return kill, but red buff stolen. Now looking towards his blue. LNG's bot lane is there to respond though. Chieftain might be in trouble.
Chieftain in a lot of trouble. No flash, no way of getting out of here, you would feel. He's waiting for his buddy to come and kind of help him out here. He's going to get himself over the wall, but he needs to get closer. UCal! That was not the play, my dude. You just needed to play. You just need to play tag. You just needed to get him out.
Left him out to dry. And honestly, I'm going to say, right, you look at the top right of your screen, you'll see the Herald is alive. Personally, I think that should have been the game plan, right? You force Tarzan away. He doesn't get the level 6. We often talk about supports not having the level 6 for the Herald fight. Usually your jungler does, right? But look at this base damage that comes through. Follow-up comes in, the flash kicks Doinby through him. Doesn't quite have the follow-up because that Q from UCal misses. But then after that, I feel like you could have moved towards the Herald, got control of that area, commits so heavily on this bot side, and is punished as a result.
Yeah, really overstaying, and Gets punished very, very hard. Now Tarzan, with that onslaught of shadows, is going to walk in towards this top bot lane. Has got himself some vision. Chieftain is around in the area. They have an inkling, though, that something's going on. They think that Lumao is sitting off into a brush as they finally get themselves the hook down on the south wind. But where are you going to go here? The onslaught of shadows has to be used, but he cannot get it in time. Puff gets a donation over to the AE carry fund as the traps went down to stop any kind of escape.
Yeah, really nice play. Obviously tries to ult out, but then ends up getting caught by those traps, and it was a good bait setup. Southwind made a bit of a mistake face checking last game, but on the Alistair, you really have permission to do so.
Yeah, we always see a good hook there from Lumao. It does mean that Southwind does pop out the unbreakable will, so he will not have that for any fight in the near future. Is in a relatively decent cooldown, so should have it in a minute and a half or so. But let's have a look at the replay here. And again, this is just spending so much time, and TT are just prepared for it.
Yeah, and critically, Light, you can see him on the corner of the screen, not in any position to help capitalize on this. They knock him away, he ults forward, ends up trying to hit the lantern, but on the traps, they will interrupt your dashes, right? The new change, they made a jinx within the last year or so where you cannot dash over traps anymore, and so wasn't able to grab the lantern to get pulled out. We will now see TT moving towards that Herald, right? They have the support in position. I don't think they really need to do too much to get this. Tarzan not really interested, and he is 0-2-0 right now, and we talked a bit about this at the start of the segment, start of the series. LNG are kind of relying on Tarzan to really set the ball rolling. And we saw in the series against V5, when he falls behind, they look lost.
And that's the big thing we talked about at the start of this series, is that Tarzan is the glue that keeps this team together. And for TT, they found themselves an avenue, found an opportunity here where they're able to find consistent early game advantages. In the game 1, they got it, and in game 2, they're getting it now as well. They will have a little bit of mitigated pressure here as Light just farming himself up a storm, does have the Gale Force available to him, so is just doing very nicely in this bot side, has about a 400 gold lead, pretty much exclusively just on farm and just experience himself, so doing very nicely on that side. But Chieftain in the area now, looks like he wants to try and maybe look to make something work here. Breakable Will not quite there just yet, and the onslaught of shadows just coming back for Tarzan.
They could look for something here. Maybe he's going Lumao. Tim will give away that he's there. Does have the Herald in pocket, so potential to try and set something up. And Dragon is up and available, which seems like TT are keen on getting. Oh, all in.
All in indeed. We're going to see the slicing Maelstrom used. Needlework's going to be doing some work. Ale has to flash away. That's a key engage tool now no longer there for the Kennen. That flash slicing Maelstrom is so pivotal, and it will not be available for any kind of dragon fight that we might see.
I expect TT are a lot more confident go fist in the back of that. Do you see Chieftain get away? And honestly, TT, they don't mind this being a slow dragon, right? They can just fire poke off on the Zoe. You find a Sleepy Trouble bubble. They don't mind taking their time with this one. And as a result, you can see LNG, they really don't want to play games here, because if a Sleepy Trouble bubble does land, good chance you end up just getting popped. And you don't have things, as you said, like slicing Maelstrom. You can't just TP the Kennen in, find that aggression. So as a result, LNG are going to back away. TT will just be able to secure this one.
Yep, that's going to be the second dragon of the game going with TT. We'll see what Dragon Soul will be the map, as it does change a lot of things. You know, we saw the Hex Soul last time around. It is going to be the Cloud Soul this one, so not the greatest of RNG for TT, but it does mean that you are a lot faster around those, you know, kind of corridors of the jungle, and that could be very pivotal for making rotations a lot later on this map goes, especially when you're looking for flanks on something like the Hecarim or the Kennen.
And honestly, even just a flat movement speed goes a long way, but on things like the Gwen, that movement speed is really valuable. Big tool that you can use to potentially find favor in fights, especially you pop in the Ghost, you pop your ultimate, you're zooming around, hard to match. Would obviously be huge if LNG can get a Hecarim and Kennen in particular, finding a lot of favor now. TT used the Herald bot lane. It's not going to have as much value getting those plates bot compared to mid, as I kind of talked about before. Mid tier 1 is a great one to be able to take down early, but you do give the gold to Puff, which is definitely what TT want to be doing in this game, and it's kind of needed because right now Light is up in gold despite the fact you handed those plates over and picking up another plate himself.
Yeah, he's just had free reign realistically in this bot side. It's just been very solid from Light, and I'm gonna put a little bit of a spotlight onto him and say that this guy has stepped up for LNG, has had such an incredible season so far. I think he has the second highest KDA coming into this series, just behind Scout on EDG, and that's all players, by the way. That's not just AD carries, that is of all players. So really having himself a good standout start to the season, and it's exactly what LNG needed. Like we said, we knew that their mid jungle was going to be good, but the rest of the map needed to kind of step itself up, but it has done specifically with Light as well.
And I think it's important, right? Particularly in a game like this where you're going up against the Jinx, one of those big carries that have been so dominant in the meta. There's lots of opportunities for Aphelios really to make the game about themselves. I think that's the difference, right? I think Jinx is like you find a good position in a team fight, you look for the reset, you hammer down the constant damage. But we've seen Aphelios in the LPL really step up when it comes to Gale forcing in, getting the big ultimates, doing huge amounts of burst damage. Really just a treat to see, and kind of expecting some of that coming out from late in this game. Time being though, 14 minutes, there's not a significant advantage for TT. I was hoping to see once again this mid jungle look to snowball. They've definitely done fine, right? Not denying that. Lee Sin, Zoe definitely in an okay position, but we still haven't seen too much pressure being applied on those side lanes. Yukal's kind of stayed mid, and now we're seeing the opposite, right? Going to be moving down towards bot. Tarzan's there. This is bot tier 1 going down. Oh, do you see a play?
Yeah, they're going to go in. Slicing Maelstrom, though, will stun them up underneath the tower as they do finally get the needlework to get the kills. That's going to be the kill traded off as well as the tower. So you are gaining a little bit here, but LNG not to be deterred. They've got full pressure in this bot side. They make it a tier 2. They've got the chakrams, the red and white. They're going to be able to shred this.
Yeah, I think Zoe being there might be, that might be enough to stop them.
I mean, they need to be so careful, but I don't think they can be as careful enough. They will eventually get light out of there, but that was very, very close. Heal had to be burned. We are going to see the paddle star coming out. Lumao gets hit up by the trouble bubble, and now he goes into stasis, but he's going to come straight back out, right on top of the traps, and smacked in the face there by a star from the Zoe.
Yeah, good roam from Yukal at the end there to try and mitigate that play, get the kill on return, but still, when my mid jungle is winning, I expect to be getting first tower, right? And I feel like TT, once again, a little bit lacking in using that pressure they have and leaning it to the side lanes. But like it took a long time for them to go for that tower top, a long time for them to take out Arla, and as a result, LNG able to get the first one. But still, TT do trade in terms of towers. They are up in terms of gold. They did get that kill, and now looking for a bit more.
Oh, I love this. I love that they're trying to go for it, but LNG wise to the trick, saying, look, we're going to chuck in the ball. We don't lose anything for doing it. We're going to be able to gain that very pivotal information. I did love the idea, though, from TT, using the Hex Splash to get the Alistar and the Lee Sin over the wall. It almost came to fruition, but we'll wait and see now. With a minute till Dragon spawning, you've got a couple of summoners down on TT. No flash engage available from Chieftain or from Southwind. So with first items being finished up, we will see the Gale Force being used as well by Puff. So he will not have that defensive tool here for this Dragon fight if the side of TT want to go for it.
And on the other side, Light won't have his ultimate available. I do feel like it's a similar situation to game 1 where TT don't need to contest this Dragon. But what I will say is that I think they should. They're up in gold, right? 2,000 gold up. And it would secure them a lot of value. You see here, the Lantern for Thresh so valuable in this situation. Aphelios would certainly be dead if that ability wasn't available. But the problem is, you're getting chased down by a Zoe through the jungle. Lumao tries to flay away Yukal to stop any further engage coming through, but trades his own life now. I think we're going to fly back in the live game. Dragon now the setup. Gotta see what Puff can do on this Jinx, but also Arle, Flash, Slicing Maelstrom available. The Shockwave from Doinby, all big tools. If they can pull them off effectively, will win them a fight.
Yeah, you got the Hextech Rocket Belt as well for Arla if he wants to try and go for it. This would be a bit of a flip here for TT. I don't think they want to go for Arla, though. They're recognizing the flank that could come in over the side. You can see Chieftain, he's going to go in on top of it now and try and maybe take it. No, he does not get the steal, so they are going to try and maybe make this fight work as Doomby already down to about a third of his HP. Side of LNG will get the Dragon. They'll get out. They do not suffer any casualties.
They will lose that mid-tier 1 as a result. TT able to zone them away. A close one in the Smite fight, but Tarzan holds true in this game. Once again, is able to secure it. Lose the mid-tier 1. I think LNG though can kind of be happy with that one. Managed to deny the soul stacking. They are still behind, and now TT looking towards that Herald. I think maybe should just be able to get this red buff and get out. Tarzan doesn't have this fight yet, but actually could look for something.
I mean, Puff's got to be so careful here. I was going to say, if they don't know where the Thresh is, the one death sentence is just that. And now, the Rift Herald is very much in question here. You still have the Slicing Maelstrom for the side of the cannon, and you can see Tarzan now running forward. No Onslaught of Shadows of speak of, but Tarzan goes a little bit too far forward, tries to smite and keep himself alive. He shall not get it. They will get the smite down from Chieftain as he tries to keep himself going. Now Puff with Southwind trying to make something work. The TD coming in off the backside of this. They will not get it, though, as Light's got himself a double kill. He's still pushing forward, and Doomby comes in with the assist. It's a double on top of the singles. That's 3 kills there for the side of LNG. New just a little bit too late to the party, and LNG will get themselves a couple of kills to bounce right back into this fight.
And what was TT doing? Honestly, why were UCal and you not anywhere near? This felt so lazy from them, right? They're like, oh, we got mid tower. Let's go for Herald. LNG probably, you know, turn their monitors off or something. They're not going to contest. Obviously, they're going to contest if you take so long, right? We have this play coming out. They're over here. And this whole time, right, we just don't see any... Like, UCal and New are both on the bot side of the map. Not doing anything, right? You see the sleeping trouble bubble come out, which actually stops the teleport from Arlish. That's kind of clutch, I won't lie. This extended fight, like, think how different this could have been if we saw, you know, even New there a little bit sooner, but it takes so long to end up joining the fight. Just very, very messy, because Puff nearly has a pop-up moment, and critically, he doesn't pick up the Herald on the back end.
Well, Luna's dead. So there you go.
That's
the Herald
something.
does not get picked up, but they do get themselves the support on the back end of it. As we come back into live, and it's still about 2,000 gold lead. Baron has just spawned. But yeah, honestly, it just felt like there was a couple of opportunities there for Chieftain to pick up the Herald, maybe even for Southwind. And as I say that, Chieftain, what are you doing? This is so scrappy, so unnecessary from TT that it just feels like you're starting off great. Well done, you, but you can't be throwing these things away when you have such a great advantage for yourself.
Yeah, and we get a picture to see how, you know, Sleepy Trouble will just kill Lumao. Not much you can do. But again, TT feels a little bit sloppy. They're 2,000 gold ahead. They are now dealing with Light 3-0-1 in this Aphelios, and you have the tools, the Slicing Maelstrom and the Shockwave. It's not going to be easy sailing from here. For the time being, though, you'll see New having some fun in the side lane on that Gwen, able to pick up the tower. And I think a big thing is Dragon in 2 minutes, right? We have to set up that objective. TT, if they can find a pick beforehand, definitely an avenue for them to capitalize and get towards that soul. Remember, Baron now available means if you lose a fight hard enough, you potentially just forfeit that as well. A lot of pings coming out top lane. I think Light just should be able to pick this up, though. He has Lumao on the wings with the Lantern.
It should be the tower, though. Pretty much going down, unless LNG just feel like they cannot commit to it, and it's just that. You've got some decent wave clear here with the Zoe. Light needs to be very careful, but the Dark Passage is there. He should be able to get himself all the way back into safety with TT moving up towards his Baron. They are prioritizing the vision around it. Minute 15 till the next dragon spawns, and TT would only be getting themselves on the soul point rather than the soul itself. So LNG are quite happy just to wait this one out. They are just, you know, as he's mentioned, scaling in with this 3-0-1 Aphelios. Light has been so good in the last game. In this game, he has been, again, a shining light, for lack of a better term, for this team. And it hasn't really been going their way in the early games. And I've been very impressed with him so far this split.
Yeah, and definitely an avenue to carry in this one as well. When you think about the ideal scenario for an Aphelios, especially when you're playing with the Infernum, is if you have like AoE CC from your team, you can just fire ult on top and do like 1,000,000 damage. We've seen a couple so far that's like basically just one-shot teams. I remember specifically Viper in their series against Top Esports got like a massive one that just obliterated 2 people. But, you know, looking towards this next fight, it is 20 seconds until that dragon. No flash for Puff, no flash quite yet for UCal, but on this other side, no flash is going to be a Light. Those big pivotal tools from LNG can definitely capitalize, but right now TT control the area, and it's so hard to approach against the Zoe because of that Sleepy Trouble bubble. So they want to keep looking for these potential pick opportunities before they move on to the dragon.
I mean, you got to be careful, though, as TT. They're trying to be clever about it. They're trying to be interesting about how they, you know, approach this setup. But again, like you said, the trouble bubbles, and also just straight up, you just don't know what the Zoe's going to be able to pick up with that W. You don't know what's going to be available in the back pocket, so you need to be so careful of that. You can see one Paddle Star doing about 1/3 of the HP of Tarzan. He's supposed to be your tank, but LNG say, look, if you want to take the dragon, that's fine. We can look to go towards this Baron, and they clear out all the vision here. Did they start it, though? That's the big question.
I don't think they can. I think it takes too much damage off, and against Zoe, it's so risky. I think it's just them, you know, applying the pressure. And you can see TT call them on the bluff. They're just going to have Chieftain solo the dragon out in this situation. Now, LNG is trying to force in. The dragon should be down in just a second.
Trying to look for it. I will say with UCal as well, I love the build path he's gone towards. The Banshee's Veil alongside the stopwatch means that he has so much safety to just jump in, jump out, knows he's not going to be caught out by a death sentence or something on his first return. So he's got a lot of potential playmaking here available to him. And now LNG, find yourself against the soul point. TT got themselves this dragon, so they are 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, I should say, away from themselves getting a Cloud Dragon, a Dragon Soul. We are just waiting again. We are still just kind of scaling up into this game. And for LNG, yes, you have a great ease of execution, but if TT don't give you the opportunity here to find that big team fight, you don't really have a great way of making fights happen.
Yeah, I mean, they just need to kind of find a flank with the cannon, find a charge in with the Hecarim. Like, I feel like they have the tools, but the problem is it's all about the vision and control of the area. It's all about not having to face check this Zoe. It makes such a massive difference. And you actually saw in the setup for that fight, LNG wanted a fight, right? You actually saw Dorian be reset, picked up a stopwatch, and TP back in. That is a huge signal to me that they are like fully on board to take this fight, right? The fact that they invest the teleport and the reset just to make sure they have every tool available to them. But the window didn't open up, and I think this is going to kind of be a consistent thing. If LNG can't find access to the objective early, it gets a bit trickier because Tarzan, he's the one who can charge in and tank a bit, but you saw the damage that was able to be put down by the likes of Ukal, right? Even Tarzan, who is the tankiest member, still gets beaten up a fair bit if you start face checking.
Though will have pressure in this mid lane, so they're going to use that right now, pick themselves up the mid tier 1. It's going to be the final of the outer turrets as both teams get themselves onto 3 towers apiece. Gold very even as well, only about 700 or so in favor of TT. Yes, they got the dragons, but like you said, the Cloud Soul not the most impactful. Should have a decent way of denying a lot from LNG rather than giving a lot to TT, so still good in that regard. Advantages are still advantages, stats are still stats as LNG's Ala. He is on such a flank right now, and they have no idea where he is. They actually have no clue, and now Nu's going to walk straight into him and find him. He's going to try and maybe make this one work, but he can't go in. He's going to get caught up between a rock and a bow as the Alistair tries to keep himself alive, does pop himself his own ultimate as the Super Mega Death Rocket comes out to try and pepper down these health bars. You can see the idea there from Ala using his flash, but not able to find the right moment.
Yeah, not able to find the opportunity, and TT, they sent it to a quick job of collapsing down on the cannon. A little bit scattered from TT, right? You saw Alistair and Gwen, the only ones really in range to do damage. It kind of took the ult from Puff to dissuade LNG. They do a good job of not allowing that flank to come through. And I think, yeah, he was just spotted on the vision by that tower, so... or the minions, I believe. But either way, the fact he was spotted made such a difference there.
It really did. Tarzan gets down to about just above half his health bar, and that's with an Orianna shield on top of his head. So the extra resistances, the extra shielding, so much available to him. As Lumao doesn't fare much better. In fact, he is looking a lot worse. Now we can see Light going in onto Nu. He is not afraid of the Gwen, and Light is stepping up in this game.
Man, he just walks at him. And okay, fair play, he's got red, white, no ult available to Nu, but even so, this is just a little bit illegal, right? And I think that's the big thing is Nu recognizes instantly he's not winning this fight, tries to dash away, doesn't even try to turn around and just gets shredded. This Valios is so strong, and now they're looking towards that Baron. TT trying to approach. Nu does have TP, but he's not up for 20 seconds.
I was going to say 20 seconds. They just need to delay this, but you got such great poke coming in here from the Zoe. You have to be so careful. Tarzan to about half HP. Baron, 3,000 HP. They do land the Sonic Wave as they go in. They're going to try and flip it. It's secured by Ukal. Gets himself the steal, and everyone backs themselves away. LNG tried to flip it, and TT rigged the game.
And they did the same thing last game, right? They flipped the Baron. Chieftain got in the pit. He didn't land the smite. And I'm just going to say, he didn't land the smite this time either. But Ukal is able to secure it. They're able to lock down the objective. And LNG, they got a great pick. They end up paying for the mistake that they actually made last game as well and got away with, right? Going for these Baron flips feels very FPX-esque in how they've managed to pull it off. But just... we'll get a replay of how this one went down, and I think critically, it wasn't even actually... yeah, so Smite comes in from Ukal, right? So he actually switches Summoner with Spellbook. 903 HP. And I'm pretty sure Tarzan smites at 903, and then Ukal smites straight after. But it was very close regardless, and Ukal ends up securing it.
I don't know if that was necessary. Yeah, I don't know if that was necessary really coming into that. You did have the Banshee's Veil. Maybe he forgot he ended up having it. So with 10 seconds until that dragon spawns, that would be soul here for TT, and that's not really something you want to be giving over. LNG would love to be able to try and stop this. The Gravitum gun alongside the Calibrum, not exactly the best at team fighting, but they're going to have to go for it anyway. Here we go. Dragon has been started. Tarzan is ramping up on this pony. He's cantering up, gaining some speed. Look how fast he is. As now we go in. There's the Moonlight Vigil. It's going to be soul secured by TT. They'll They'll even get the Hecarim as now the Gwen comes in. Shockwave when he lands onto one. Lumao flashes away, but they're on the wrong side of the map. Here comes Allah as he tries to make something work for his team, but he now realizes he's in a wrong place at the wrong time. And Light trying to be a bro. Light trying to say, make sure he can keep his team alive. But there's only so much you can do. And TT wiped the floor with LNG.
They crushed the fight, and the critical thing is LNG do not find the engage, right? Ole, what did he do that fight? I have no idea because I didn't see him. He didn't show up. He was absent. Tarzan just flies in for the dragon, but he's the primary engage, right? Your main engage tool is this Hecarim, and if he has to run in to try and contest the dragon, it gets instantly deleted pretty much. You're not going to have a good time. Now, with Baron in pocket, they're going to be able to get this inhibitor. They might be trying for a bit more. 20 seconds on the carries for LNG, and TT want to try and end.
Yeah, that's the big thing you just mentioned. The carries are not here. The wave clear is not available. There's new goes in underneath the turret. They will see the flash from the W of the Zoe being used as Allah has to go back to the base and gets himself healed up. Tarzan trying to just distract the minions. The Nexus turrets are going down. TT are bringing us to a game 3, and LNG are not winning this one yet.
And it just felt like despite having the execution tools, it didn't quite pan out. They weren't able to find their way into the team fight. And it was really the resets coming in for this Jinx found so much momentum. But I gotta say, credit to Chieftain and Yukal, right? This Lee Sin Zoe combo ended up paying off pretty heavily. Strong in the early laning phase, but delivering later on as well.
Catch from the TT mid laner, as I think it was the mid laner. Quite a good look there as TT equal up this series, and honestly I'm glad to see it because like I still maintain there was a lot of good in both the early games of game